rabbis of yesteryear. Now we're in Yugoslavia area over here. We're talking about here, I believe, on 29th of Sivan, is the Hilula of Rabbi Moshe Kassorla, or could be also known as Moise Kassorla. He was a famous Serbian rabbi, let's just say Croatian, connected very much of its day. I believe he was born in August 1913 and passed away on the 22nd of June in the year 1990 in Jerusalem. He passed away. He would go on to become the chief rabbi, I believe, of the congregation in Toulouse in France, and very much lived at a time period of the Second World War and was chief rabbi of the Sephardic Kehila in Paris also. So various different, let's say, important positions he would actually obtain during his time. Now, he was born in the year 1913 in Bitola, which is more on the south or North Macedonia, respectively, around that point, quite near the border of Greece, if I'm not mistaken. So that's where he was born. And I think he was born at the time period of the end of the Second Balkan War. I think at that point in time, it was under the kingdomship of Serbia. This was at that point in time, and I don't think it was the family was part of the Bitola community, and I think consisted of 11 people. It's reported. I'm actually using this just from some of the notes from Wikipedia, actually, interesting enough. So he would learn Torah, one child, through, I think, the auspices in his city of Rabbi Yitzchak Elitzafan. So we haven't actually, it's the first time I think I'm mentioning Rabbi Elitzafan's name, so it will be interesting to hear more with regards about him. I think between the years 1928 and 1932, at that point in time, he would be about 15 to about 18, 19 years of age. He would learn together with his brother Meir, I think, and there was a seminar, let's just say, seminar Teology Yehudit Sarajevo. I think, or you could actually transliterate it, I think, as a Jewish theological seminary in Sarajevo. At that point in time, including among the rabbinate teaching over there was Rabbi Moritz Levi, who was a famous historian and the chief rabbi of the Jewish community in Sarajevo, I think from 1917, a rabbi we've spoken about before. I think he's also a doctor. Also, Rabbi Mordechai Tzvi Orbach happened to be very much over there. He was another famous rabbi, let's just say, in his time, also in Sarajevo, chief rabbi in Zagreb, also in Croatia, and I think maybe, if I'm not mistaken, after the Second World War. He would learn with another famous rabbi who we've spoken about on various occasions before, as a chavruta with Rabbi Solomon Gaon. Rabbi Solomon Gaon, I believe, was a chief rabbi of the Spanish Portuguese in the United Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. And it's very interesting. I think this place was more of an academic place, and Rav Solomon Gaon, for example, became later on a professor also in Yeshiva University. Now, after he completed his studies, he would then go on to return to Bitola and would serve there as a rabbi. That would be, he would be taking the rabbinate mantelpiece over there for a period of time. And then later on, I think come 1936, he would leave for France and start studying in the French Rabbinical Seminary. This is among his classmates, let's just say the people in learning to become rabbis, including Rabbi David Pirate Worker, I think, was a French Jewish rabbi, a professor of Jewish history, an activist also of the French in the French resistance movement that forced against Nazi occupation. Another person was Rabbi Ernest Simcha Guggenheim. I think he himself happened to be a teacher at the Rabbinical Seminary of France and the director of the seminary later on. He was a prominent figure, I think, in French Jewry. So those were the people that were there. Come July 1938, he would be appointed the chief rabbi of the Jewish community of Toulouse in France. It's southwestern France. And during the Second World War, after the victory, let's say, over France, I think between the years 1940 to 1942, he would go on to serve as rabbi among the Belgian Jews that were imprisoned in the Varna camp. Now, it would be interesting to do various videos also to explore maybe what actually the horrors that actually happened at that point in time, just from a historic point of view. And he would also work to help with personal equipment and medicine for Jews from France imprisoned in these different concentration camps. See the horrors of the anti-Semitism all throughout Jewish history. And he would give history lessons on the history of Jewish people to members of the resistance, I think, in synagogues. He was, coordinating or speaking to the Bishop Giles Giraud Salarius, I think, during the time period of the camp. And it's reported the bishop would publicly condemn the anti-Semitic policies of the regime over there and the persecutions of the Jews. This was reported over. He had coordination with the resistance led. And this would actually result in the French police trying to pursue him, where he would have to eventually flee to Toulouse with his wife. And I think he would arrive in Nice, I'm not too sure, which was under then the Italian protection. And he was there, I think, around May 1943, where I think his son would actually be born at that point in time. And he would keep, I think, traveling and moving to Saint Julie, I think, in Haute-Garonne department, respectively. I think his daughter will be born in maybe August 1944. And at that point in time, I think German forces will actually come to the area, and he would have to hide in various different surrounding villages after that point in time. Now, it's interesting, after the war, Moshe Kassorla and his wife would move to an area called Hout de Seine, I think in Greater Paris. And he would run a shelter, I think, for displaced children and orphans. He would later on go on to become a chief rabbi of the Sephardic community in Paris. And he was appointed to the rabbinate, to the pulpit, let's just say, position, which, if I'm not so that's very interesting. I think it was a synagogue called the Synagogue of Montmartre. I think it's located part of Rue Saint Isura, I believe. Part of Paris, if I'm not mistaken, and later on would serve as rabbi of the Don Yitzhak Abarbanel synagogue, I think a famous synagogue in Paris, France, which I think was built back in the year 1962. Now, just exploring just a few more tidbits within regards to the famous, let's say, very famous in his time of his place. He would get married, I think, in the year 1942, 25th of June, if I'm not mistaken, in Toulouse, I think so, to a woman of, I think Fanny was her name, if I'm not mistaken, from the family of Reicha. I think she would live between the years 1923 to 2013. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, she was Polish or from Polish origin. I think her family would actually live in Antwerp also and be traders of diamond, it's reported over. Now, I think during the wartime period, Rabbi Moshe Kassorla managed to save some of his wife's family from being deported to extermination camps, it's reported over. But I think many of his own family in Bitola was murdered in one of the extermination camps during the Holocaust. And I recommend everyone to learn within regards to what happened in the Holocaust, connecting to the Jewish community of Macedonia. That's reported that he would receive a award of decoration from the French government, it's reported over. Many of the rabbis we've spoken about on this series would do it. I think it was called the Mesadeh HaKalim Shel HaAkdameim, if I'm not mistaken. This accolade, let's just say, was. Now, as we stated just before, they had two children, him and his wife Fanny, a son and a daughter. Yoshua would later on go on to emigrate to the United States of America. He would end up becoming an architect in Manhattan, it's reported over. And his daughter, Danielle, would immigrate with her parents to Israel in 1980. The family lived in Jerusalem after that point in time. Rabbi Moshe Kassorla passed away. Unfortunately, suffered from serious illness and passed away in June 22nd, if I'm not mistaken. That was naturally 29th of Sivan. He was 76 years of age, and he was buried in Kiryat Shaul Cemetery. He was a famous rabbi, so I'd recommend everyone to learn more about him. Learn more within regards to the Macedonian Jewry also, because it had a very, very interesting history, which I would recommend everyone to learn about. Now, friends, we're a community here. We're learning about the famous rabbis of yesteryear. Over here, we've spoken about here for the coming Hilula on the 29th of Sivan of Rabbi Moshe Kassorla. And I recommend everyone to learn more with regards to him. Please subscribe to the channel. We are now hitting close to 7,000 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement. If you feel anyone's interested in watching these videos, please share these videos to other people. So wishing you a Shabbat Shalom. Take care and be well, everyone. Thanks everyone for watching. I appreciate it.